Well, good morning. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant New Year's Day morning and happy New Year to all of you out there in video land. I hope you had a great evening last night. I had a very subdued evening myself. Saw the fireworks at midnight, but basically wasn't too late into bed, and I certainly was not inebriated. You know, I hate going into the new year waking up sick in the morning because you've overdone it at a party the night before. I'll leave that kind of stuff to the young. But what I would like to do, seeing as we are into a new year, is go through a few predictions of some of the things that happened last year and what the implications of those things. But firstly, I would actually like to talk a little bit about Canada, because Canada is in real trouble. This guy, Mark Carney, I mentioned in a video when he first got elected that you would regret electing this man, that if you think that Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland were bad, wait and see what Mark Carney is capable of. And it is just by the grace of God that he didn't get a majority. But you know, two Conservatives have crossed the floor to join the Liberal Party. And so what do we learn from that? That at the end of the day, politicians have absolutely no principles whatsoever, and I've seen this happen several times before. And of course what the ruling should be is that if you don't feel comfortable with the Conservatives, then you sit as an independent, you hold a by-election, and you see with the public, because that is who it should be all about, is what the public wants. So we know that now that politicians have very few or very limited principles, the way they can switch backwards and forwards, and that nobody wants to change that rule. I mean, it should never have been there in the first place. I mean, good heavens. The other big thing that happened last year was the Universal Ostrich Farm. And that was an absolute debacle. The CFAA walked in there and murdered those ostriches. There was nothing wrong with them at all. As you all know, I was there for 2 weeks and I saw firsthand what was going on. I saw firsthand the heavy-handedness of the RCMP whilst letting all kinds of drug runners, child traffickers, goodness knows what else, get away with blue murder. You know, they're languishing on the farm, picking up hay and straw and chasing ostriches and generally harassing a peaceful protest that was taking place and making life generally miserable. And so overall, what do we learn from that? Well, we learn that the courts are no longer in effect in this country. Even up to the Supreme Court refused to get involved in any of this. The fact that politicians, not one politician, spoke up about the what was taking place, the travesty taking place at the Universal Ostrich Farm. So what do we learn from that? We learn that civil servants are now beyond reproach. These agencies, you think these other agencies weren't watching what took place there? That nobody dared to step in to overrule or to even question or insist that testing be done. I mean, the pressure on the government to do that was absolutely immense. The Americans got involved, RFK Jr. got involved, and still you couldn't force the CFIA to test these birds before they were killed. So Canada's in a lot of trouble, and if Carney gets his majority, which I suspect he will, there will be another Conservative will cross the floor. They will offer him the world, the earth, because they need that majority to ram through Bill C9, Bill C8, Bill C2, which will be, it's already fallen, but that will come back in a reformed manner, and Bill C12. All of these suppress your right to free speech. Okay, they're going to control the internet, they're going to control what you post online, and we're already being tracked online anyways. Tweets and so on and so forth. There was a woman in a private message said something, and next thing you know, there are 11 police at the door. This is in the UK. She's in the bath. They open the door, walk in, and they stand outside the bathroom door until she gets out of the bath over a comment in a private message. So how far and how deep does this go? So unless people buck up in Canada, because this is my first major prediction, and this is going to overarch everything, because this is the fundamental goal of the World Economic Forum, and it seems just about every government in the Western world, and that is a central bank digital currency and a digital ID. And of course complete control over the internet. These bills that are going through in Canada right now, they're already happening in Europe, in France, in Germany, all through the EU and the UK. So yes, we are well on the way, my friends. We are well on the way. So that without that, I don't think they can seriously move ahead. And so, at all costs, whilst this still appears to be in the voluntary stage, you cannot buy into it. Well, it's a roach motel. Once you buy into this, you will not be able to get out. Everything will be tied into it. All of your bank accounts will be linked, and they'll be able to shut you down in a heartbeat. And with AI now being able to do things so much quickly, and the far reach of AI is going to be absolutely staggering. And actually this is one of my predictions too about AI, is that it's going to continue to delight, disappoint and scare the bejeebers out of you all at the same time. AI is going to result in an incredible amount of work loss. A lot of the service type jobs, legal matters. I don't know whether you'll see AI standing up in court, but you'll certainly see a lot of legal secretaries, that kind of stuff. Lower accounting duties, they're all going to disappear. They're going to get sucked up by AI. A lot of the jobs, self-driving vehicles, so on and so forth, are going to remove a lot of those jobs. And of course, in the service industry, and these are all people, maybe there's not so much lawyers and accountants, but certainly these are all groups of people who are going to find it very, very hard to retool and re-engage into the workforce. And this is going to lead to some trouble. But basically, the delightful part of AI is, some of the things that it's turning out in the way of art is absolutely stunning. I can't believe some of the things that it's doing, but it will reach a point, and it already is in many cases. When I see, as I scroll through my YouTube homepage and the shorts come up, if it's AI driven, I just don't even watch it, because it's a waste of time. It has no value whatsoever, because there's not even any kind of human fingerprint anywhere to be found on this AI generated video. And it'll be the same with written work. We will get to a point where people crave reality. And things as simple as someone like myself just sitting here in a chair, opining on certain things and what I think is going to come, will be an increased novelty that I think is sought after as relief from the perfection of AI, because it is just too perfect. It's just too perfect. And so, although that is the delightful part, that's the disappointing part. And of course, what they've been finding out with AI is that, coders have used AI to create code, and they said, God damn it, you've got to check it all, because the AI will fill in the blanks with, if it doesn't know, it'll just fill in the blanks in an effort to please you. And the same with people who have asked AI to do research. Everything has to be checked. Well, if you've got to check everything, you might as well damn well do it yourself. Okay. Now, I will admit, it is excellent for research. It saved me a lot of time, and I've asked some very interesting questions, one of which I'm going to go through in another video. But I asked it, how to dodge digital ID and a CBDC, and it gave a huge list of things that you can do in your life. to avoid getting ensnared in these algorithms that are designed, to precisely do that, to trap you. Now, what AI is going to do to the economy, I have absolutely no idea, because we are switching over to the economy in a death loop now. Everybody realizes that these debts that countries have amassed, that individuals have amassed, it's just not going to get paid back, period. The money just isn't there. I think I'd heard somewhere that it's going to take 2 or 3 years of the entire world's GDP just to draw even. 2 or 3 years, that means nobody makes anything. No, there's nothing is done for Europe to get for yourself for 3 years just to pay off that debt. And of course, that's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to happen. So what's the next thing that's going to happen with the economy is that they're going to start printing money again. Okay, they're going to start printing money again, and the people who know this and the people who are in a position to take advantage, they're going to front run this. They are going to get cheap money coming out of banks and so on and so forth, and they're going to buy real assets with them, because they know that at the end of the day, when all of these debts, when finally it becomes apparent, the only thing that's going to have any value, just as in Weimar Republic, anything solid, anything you could touch, anything tangible. So with the exception of one thing in this time, so gold and silver, moving forward, I wouldn't hold any paper assets whatsoever. The whole gold and silver paper market is coming undone because we've run into, firstly, an industrial supply shortage in silver, and people are also realizing that they want to cash in their paper gold, and their paper silver for that matter, and go spend that. Because we've reached a point with the GLD, I think it's 180 paper ounces for every 1 real ounce of gold, and in the SLV, these are the gold and silver markets, metals exchange, they're up to about 220 paper ounces for every real ounce of silver. Now, I'm just going to give you a very, very quick history of silver, because this is why I am so bullish on silver. Okay, so let's flip back to 1900. In 1900, we had 22 billion ounces of refined silver above ground. Okay, 22 billion ounces. We were mining about 1 billion ounces a year. Now you've got to remember that there's not many pure silver mines. Most silver is a byproduct of gold, copper, lead mining, that kind of stuff. It's okay. It's a sort of secondary metal. Okay, so we only produced about 1 billion ounces. Now fast forward to the year 2000, and we're down to 2 billion ounces of silver above ground, and we're still only mining about 1 billion ounces of silver a year. And we are drawing down, so you can see we're drawing down on silver hard and fast in the industrial arena. And with the advent of solar panels, I see Samsung has now developed a silver ion battery, lithium silver battery, which is, how much do you think that's going to take? And a lot of the things that we put silver into, all these phones and so on and so forth, all these things are dipped in silver, because silver is such an unbelievable conductor. The medical colloidal silver is used a lot on medical instruments because, again, it's a natural antibiotic. So and this is where the term "born with a silver spoon in your mouth" comes from, is that only the rich folk could afford to feed their children with a silver spoon, and it was supposed to help keep them healthy. So yes, silver is going to boom. Saudi Arabia is getting ready to pave the desert with solar panels, and each one of those solar panels takes an ounce of silver, and so much of it is irretrievable. Now there is a machine in Germany that you can get the metals back out of circuit boards, and silver comes in about $1,200 an ounce. So whether it'll go to $1,200 or not instantly, probably not. but they're still going to play the paper silver game, so they're going to suppress the price, whatever, however high it goes, it will be somewhat suppressed just because they've inflated the actual silver market. But you'll be able to sell that silver directly to some industry that uses silver for a much higher price, because the physical is the real thing. It's in your hand, right? Now, the one that you can't touch that I was talking about is, of course, Bitcoin. Cryptocurrencies, not so much. I still think that Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, possibly XRP are going to be the ones that are going to stick around, and the rest they're going to fade. But Bitcoin will remain, purely and simply because it is probably the only mechanism in today's world that you can trade, and that there will be no third party interfering in your transaction, and it is peer-to-peer. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as you have a wallet to put that Bitcoin into, you can receive payment. And at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants to have, and it's fast. You can't do this with silver and gold. You've got to ship it somewhere, you've got to pay someone to ship it, there is a chance it'll be stolen en route, there is all kinds of things. And then maybe you offer a note so you don't have to ship it, but then what do you do with the note? No, Bitcoin is untouchable, and at the present time nobody has cracked that code, even with quantum computing. And I don't think they will. At the end of the day, because this is like the goose that lays the golden egg. Okay, you get an egg a day, fantastic. Kill the goose, where's the eggs? Oh, no more eggs. Okay, so yes, I think that Bitcoin will sustain. It's sustained basically all of the talent in the hacking department that you can possibly imagine, because this is such an existential threat to banking, and that the whole way we deal with money in the Western world is under threat. This is an existential threat to that system, and so they have been trying to crash Bitcoin almost since it started to get traction. Once it started getting up to $1,000 or $2,000 a coin, and people started paying it more and more attention, they've been realizing what this can do, and they have been trying to hack in, and they can't do it. And as time has gone by, that has got more intense. So they've had the most skilled, the most incredible, they've had AI, they've had everything that you can possibly think of to try and break into Bitcoin, and it has not worked to date. And I think that's very promising, because so much of the stuff we're building today is premised on the old stuff, and if we couldn't do it then, chances are by now not going to happen. That phone, I get all kinds of messages coming in a day. New Year's Day, you'd think people would be sitting down, relaxing, putting their feet up, and not even thinking about making a video. Okay, well, so what are we going to move on to? The next thing I think is going to be a big issue in this coming year is climate change. I think this is the wild card, because yes, the climate does change. We know we've had ice ages in the past, a little ice age. This is all documented. You can look at Greenland, Vostok ice cores, ocean sediment layers, lake sediments. They all tell the same story, that the climate does change, sometimes suddenly, sometimes over a period of years, decades, centuries even. So it does happen, and we are now in the process. Our climate patterns are shifting more to a southerly route. I think you're going to see that the Sahara, North Africa, and it already is, in the Middle East, is going to become verdant again. This could be a 2,000-year cycle, 2,000 to 3,000 year cycle that we are looking at here. And so as we shift, it's always those transition periods that are the worst. You are going to continue seeing what we're seeing now, extreme weather events, especially in the area of rain, because when the Gulf Stream slows, it actually gets, the surface temperature gets hotter, and the ice melt is colder water coming down from the north. Well, that creates more evaporation, which is more cloud cover. The difference between an ice age and an interglacial period is about 20% cloud cover. We have about 62% cloud cover on the planet right now. If that goes up to 82, 83%, you're in an ice age, because you switch from the greenhouse effect to the albedo effect. So when you tie in that reflecting light going back now out into space, read Svendmark. Unbelievable. I will leave the link down below to that little video, and he talks about cosmic rays creating a dense water layer in the atmosphere during low flare periods in the sun, and that's what we're moving into. So yes, you're going to see downpours, and we're already seeing, in China, the Middle East, Asia, that kind of stuff, Africa, where they are getting months worth of rain in a day or two, and also dry weather. And of course, in this transition, you're going to see very uneven, so we could bounce from warm to cold, warm to cold. This will play havoc with farmers. As a serious gardener myself, I can tell you, it does not take much to upset your year as a farmer or a gardener. One frost at the wrong time, too much rain, too much dry. It doesn't take much at all. And so you could see some serious issues with our food supply. This is not good, because, the other big issue about the economy this year is inflation. People are literally getting inflated to death, and they just, wages cannot keep up. As I say, you tie that into the layoffs that are coming through AI. Oh yes, this is going to be a difficult period to get through. I don't know how long it's going to last, because of course all this job loss is going to lead to social unrest. There are an awful lot of people whose dreams are about to be shattered because they over-leveraged themselves with debt. When I look around and I see the number of people that are just sinking in a sea of debt, getting credit card after credit card just to make payments, this is absolutely insane. And then you add in inflation along with that. And, I'm not saying that every person in the household will lose their job, but right now, if one person in that household goes down to part-time or gets sick, they're in trouble. They are in serious, serious trouble. And of course, the housing market, this is a big problem with Canada. The way Canada's economy has gone forward is, people have used their real estate as basically a piggy bank, and their only investment for retirement and so on and so forth, and we haven't invested in manufacturing or things that are tangible in the real world. And so really, Canada's economy is an empty economy. It's so much easier to dig up those resources, send them to the US, get them finished, and then re-import them back into our country, and either use, we either assemble them but we don't actually manufacture much anymore, because people have got used to the idea that real estate will carry you on, and the baby boomer generation has done very, very well out of that. They have rode that whole wave up to a peak. But now, as the young coming up behind cannot afford that housing, so you're going to see some very, very, very rough times in the housing market, because it has to rebalance, if the younger generation is going to have any hope of getting on some kind of security ladder for their future. Now, the other huge issue, I think, is rearing its ugly head everywhere, is not immigration, but mass immigration, without making sure that these people have jobs to go to, places to live, people who can help them, resources, and so on and so forth. You're basically condemning them to a life on the street, a life of hardship, which is completely unfair because you promised otherwise. But the other unfair thing is you flood the labour market. And again, so you suppress wages because these people are desperate. They're ready to do any job for any pay under any circumstances, and that undermines the whole pay structure within a country. And so, you know, the old saying, desperate people do desperate things. And this, we see what's happening in Europe. We see what's happening in England when you don't take into account. And this does happen to be a particular immigration. It's any kind of immigration. So, for example, you know, when the tar sands opened up in Fort McMurray, all of a sudden Fort McMurray had a major infrastructure problem because there was so many workers came up so quickly. They were paying Tim Hortons workers, you know, like $28 an hour because nobody would work there because you couldn't afford to live. The cost of goods went through the roof because infrastructure was in demand, apartments were in demand, all of that kind of stuff. So it's just a formula. You just cannot bring too many people into an area without ensuring that there are enough infrastructure and support systems to maintain that. And if you don't, you cause trouble. There is social loss of cohesion. You know, you can already see people are angry that, you know, they've worked all their lives in a particular country and, you know, you can't live on a basic pension. And yet somebody who comes to your country with zero skills has to be trained not only in some kind of skill but also in language skills, in mathematics skills. You know, a lot of these people come from countries that don't have a standardized educational system. So, you know, from the get-go they are an absolute burden on the system, and there's no guarantee that they're going to rise out of that. And so you compare that against people, like I say, who worked all their lives in a country, paid into the system, expecting to be the beneficiaries of that system, and suddenly find it being snatched out from underneath them, and no wonder there are riots. I think this will not only continue, it will escalate as people, you know, social media is spreading information far and wide. So, you know, this actually, I'm calling this year, I name every year, although I'm a bit confused this year because it's either the big reveal, the big awakening, or the year of the black swan. And, you know, so much is going to come out, as that is going to continue. That's my other prediction for this coming year. Just as we're seeing in Minnesota, that huge reveal there, and that's just one state. $11 billion on daycare centers that have no children. On English as a second language, learning, nobody there. They're just buildings that are rented, and they can't even spell learning. They spell learning centre, leering centre, which is a kind of weird, maybe a Freudian slip, you know, to make. But there's no children there. I mean, absolutely stunning. 11 billion, and this is just one state, and I think that is going to continue into the new year, and I think we're going to see more and more and more of this being uncovered now that it's been caught out. You know, and they see what the scam is. There's going to be independent journalists everywhere looking at these places in every single state. Absolutely stunning. And, you know, who knows where this is all going to lead to. But it will lead to a point, and I've heard this before, where the taxpayer would just say, well, I'm not paying for that. If that's how you're going to spend my money, get out of here, I'm not going to do it. And you may find the same with property taxes, as councils, you know, follow the whole woke and DEI agenda, and you know, people just get more and more disgruntled because, you know, the DEI agenda is not about hiring through meritocracy. I made a video about this, about the, you know, the ship sinking. The DEI hire captain who sunk the goddamn ship because she was underqualified. Not because she was a woman. Could have been a dog, could have been a chimpanzee. I don't care. If it's qualified, if that chimpanzee has the right qualifications, hey, more power to it. More power to it. But because, we're hiring underqualified people who are not capable of doing the job, well, of course, then the quality of the work done is going to suffer. And this is what we're seeing. But yes, the politicians down there, the Tim Walz, I think, is in a lot of trouble. Ilhan Omar, I think, is in a lot of trouble. And yes, I think this is going to be an ongoing thing throughout this coming year. So buckle up, get your seatbelt on, get your flak jacket on, because you're going to see some surprises. You really are. The Jeffrey Epstein, that's not over. That is not over. And the number of people who have been involved in this stuff, all the way from royalty, all the way down to, lesser noble people, they've all been involved in this one way or another. And we've known for years, just as we've known about the church for years, but nobody could say it. These were protected, and we're now moving into an era where you can't hold that stuff down. And I think something else that's going along with this is that a lot of the people who were involved in this stuff are getting older. And I think that they're realizing that if they don't tell their story now, it isn't going to be told. And of course, as I completely understand, when you get older, you have less to lose. Holy jumping! See, you think that you don't care what people think about you so much when you get older, because it's already whatever's been done and gone, it's already figured itself out or what have you. So it's not such an issue standing up there and saying this happened to me and this is the person who did it. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that stuff over the coming year too. But the culmination is that there's going to be an awful lot of red faces, and there is going to be some really big changes. I mean, there's nothing changes you like waking up and realizing exactly what is going on behind the scenes, and you will understand that shadow government is a reality. There is a whole bureaucracy that is headed up by extremely intelligent but dark and devious people who have their own agenda. Someone queried me about foreign policy, and I said, look, when you look at foreign policy throughout the years, it hasn't really changed. So that tells me that there's another hand at play. There's something that we're not seeing, a hidden hand that's involved in all of this. So yes, those are basically my predictions. That's how I see this year playing out, and that is why I want to be mobile, because I have no idea what this is going to look like. I am optimistic. I am optimistic because people are waking up, and they're waking up fast. But we all know that when you wake up, there's a process. First of all, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're researching all kinds of stuff, and just completely freaked out by the whole thing, and that takes a little while to subside, because at the end of the day, the only solution that you and I have to resolve any of this and to stay away from the necessity for digital ID and a central bank digital currency is a secondary community. The whole idea of an agora, the open marketplace, where we look after each other and we develop the things that we need in our particular community. That might not be the same as another community, but we can swap and share and so on and so forth. But if you can't spend money, or if you're not going to get benefits on unless you take a CBDC and a digital ID, you need a secondary support system. And so that is our important goal. CBDCs, digital ID, we're about a year away from actuality. It's going to be probably this fall. Same with the EU, but it won't be mandatory for the first little while. So I think we've probably got a year to 18 months. But that really has to be our focus, is forming secondary communities so that we can weather this storm, my friends. Okay, so there are my thoughts from last year, this year. we cannot depend on the government for anything. We cannot depend on the justice system for justice. So, folks, we just have to pull up our bootstraps, stand on our own 2 feet, stick our chin out, and go forward regardless. That's about it. I don't have any easy answers. There are no easy answers. There are no easy answers in all of this. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below. Thank you so much for following me all these years. I certainly appreciated your company, even though it's been virtual, and I hope that you have appreciated my company for the same. And so in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant morning, and we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.